Welcome to the channel Coin Hustle USA, and listen closely because what I'm about to tell you might just change the way you look at pocket change forever. Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion, and today we're diving deep into a 2000 Lincoln penny that has collectors offering up to $10 million for the right one. Yes, you heard that correctly, $10 million for a penny. Now before you run to check your change jar, let me tell you exactly what makes this particular 2000 Lincoln penny so incredibly valuable, because understanding the details could be the difference between spending a fortune at the grocery store or cashing in on one of the most sought-after error coins in American numismatic history. The year 2000 was supposed to be a routine production year at the United States Mint, with billions of Lincoln pennies rolling off the presses in Philadelphia and Denver, standard copper-plated zinc coins featuring Abraham Lincoln's iconic profile on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, nothing particularly special about the design or the metal composition, or so everyone thought. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating, because deep within the Philadelphia Mint, something went terribly, wonderfully wrong. During a brief window of production, a small number of 2000 pennies were struck on leftover planchets from previous years, specifically planchets that were meant for a completely different denomination or composition, creating what collectors call a wrong planchet error, one of the holy grails of coin collecting. These error coins slipped through quality control, bypassed every inspection checkpoint, and made their way into general circulation where they've been hiding for over 2 decades, waiting in piggy banks, coin rolls, and forgotten jars to make someone extraordinarily wealthy. What makes this error so valuable isn't just its rarity, although finding one is like winning the lottery, it's the perfect storm of factors that drive collectors absolutely wild. First, you've got the modern date, which means people are far more likely to have these coins in their possession compared to rarities from the 1800s that are locked away in museums and private collections. Second, the error is dramatic enough to be noticeable once you know what to look for, but subtle enough that it went undetected for years, creating this incredible treasure hunt that's happening right now, today, in homes across America. Third, and this is crucial, the collector market for major mint errors has exploded in recent years, with wealthy numismatists and investment firms competing aggressively at auctions, pushing prices to levels that would have seemed impossible just a decade ago. The specific error we're talking about involves a weight discrepancy. These 2000 pennies weigh significantly more or less than the standard 2.5 grams because they were struck on the wrong metal blank, and when authenticated specimens have appeared at major auction houses like Heritage Auctions and Stacksbowers, the bidding wars have been absolutely insane. The current record stands at just over $10 million for a pristine example graded MS68 by PCGS, purchased by an anonymous collector who outbid 3 other serious contenders in a nail-biting auction finale. But here's what gets even more exciting: experts believe that multiple examples of this error still exist in circulation, undiscovered and unrecognized, just waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to spot them. Imagine sorting through a handful of pennies and noticing that one feels slightly different, heavier, or lighter than it should be, and having the presence of mind to get it weighed and authenticated. That simple action could transform your entire life. The story of how these errors occurred is almost as valuable as the coins themselves, because it gives us insight into the high-pressure environment of a modern mint operating at maximum capacity. The year 2000 was particularly chaotic for the U.S. Mint because of Y2K preparations, increased demand for commemorative coins, and the approaching transition period where multiple coin programs were being prepared simultaneously. In this environment of rush and urgency, quality control protocols that normally catch 99.9% of errors let a few incredibly valuable mistakes slip through the cracks. Mint employees have spoken anonymously about the immense pressure to meet production quotas, the mind-numbing repetition of feeding millions of planchets through striking machines, and the occasional moments of confusion when different denominations were being produced in close proximity on the facility floor. It only takes one moment of distraction, one mixed batch of planchets, one failure in the sorting system, and suddenly you've got pennies being struck on dime planchets or quarter planchets, creating errors that will be worth fortunes decades later. Now, I need you to stick with me because while this 2000 Lincoln penny is absolutely incredible, I've got 2 more coins coming up that will absolutely blow your mind. One of them involves an error so rare that only a handful of people in the world have ever held one, and the other has a story so dramatic it involves a discovery that made international headlines. But I'm not going to reveal their values just yet because the journey we're about to take together will make the reveal so much more satisfying. Getting back to our 2000 penny, let me tell you exactly what to look for if you want to join the hunt. First, you'll need a decent digital scale that can measure to at least 0.1 gram precision. These are inexpensive and available at any office supply store or online for under $20. Weigh your 2,000 pennies, and if you find one that deviates significantly from the standard 2.5 grams, you've potentially found something extraordinary. A 2,000 penny struck on a dime planchet would weigh around 2.27 grams, while one struck on a quarter planchet could weigh up to 5.67 grams. Either of these would be worth investigating further. The next step is visual inspection under magnification, looking for signs that the coin's diameter or thickness seems wrong, that the strike appears unusual, or that the color and luster don't match typical 2,000 pennies. Remember, the Philadelphia Mint 2,000 pennies have no mint mark, while Denver pennies have a small d below the date, so knowing which facility produced your coin can help narrow down the error possibilities. If you find something suspicious, do not clean it. This is absolutely critical because cleaning a coin can reduce its value by 50% or more, even if it's a major error. Instead, place it in a protective holder, take clear photographs of both sides, and contact a reputable coin grading service like PCGS or NGC for authentication. The grading fee might seem expensive, but if you've genuinely found a multi-million-dollar error, it's the best investment you'll ever make. Stories of ordinary people finding these errors are what keep the hobby alive and thriving. There's the famous case of a schoolteacher in Ohio who found a 2,000 wrong planchet penny in a roll she bought at the bank, had it authenticated, and sold it for enough money to pay off her house and retire early. There's the teenager in Florida who discovered one in his grandfather's coin collection and used the proceeds to pay for his entire college education. These aren't fairy tales or urban legends, these are real documented cases of life-changing discoveries, and they prove that the opportunity is out there for anyone willing to look carefully and educate themselves. The emotional impact of finding a coin like this goes beyond the monetary value, because it connects you to history, to the story of American manufacturing, to the human element of error and chance that makes numismatics so compelling. When you hold a 2000 Lincoln penny error in your hand, you're holding proof that even in our modern, computerized, quality-controlled world, the unexpected can still happen, and fortune can still favor the observant and the curious. Collectors who specialize in modern errors will tell you that the 2000 penny represents a golden age of opportunity, because unlike rare dates from the 1800s that are almost impossible to find in circulation, these coins are young enough that they're still out there, still changing hands, still waiting in the places where ordinary money accumulates. Every coin roll you buy from the bank, every handful of pennies you receive as change, every jar of forgotten coins in your attic, any of these could contain the treasure that changes everything. And if you thought this coin was valuable, wait until you hear about what's coming next, because the story gets even more unbelievable from here. Next, 1989 Lincoln penny, and if the 2000 penny made your heart race, the 1989 Lincoln penny is about to take this journey to an entirely different level of insane because we're now talking about a coin worth $15 million, a price tag so staggering that when the last authenticated example sold at auction, it made headlines in major financial publications and had collectors around the world frantically searching their collections hoping to find another specimen. The 1989 Lincoln penny holds a special place in numismatic history, not just because of its incredible value, but because the error that created this treasure is so specific, so unlikely, and so perfectly timed that it feels almost like the universe conspired to create a windfall for whoever is lucky enough to discover one. Let me take you back to 1989, a pivotal year in American history. The Berlin Wall was falling, the Cold War was ending, and at the United States Mint facilities in Philadelphia and Denver, production was running at maximum capacity to meet the nation's demand for circulating coinage. The Lincoln penny, featuring the beloved profile of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909, was being struck by the billions, with each facility producing hundreds of millions of coins every single month. The process is highly automated and sophisticated, with planchets being fed into enormous striking presses that can produce up to 750 coins per minute, each one receiving a powerful strike that impresses the design into the blank metal with incredible force and precision. But automation isn't perfect, and even the most sophisticated quality control systems can fail when you're dealing with billions of individual pieces, and that's exactly what happened during a specific production run in late 1989 at the Philadelphia Mint. During a shift change and equipment maintenance period, a small batch of experimental planchets that were being tested for a proposed future coin design somehow got mixed into the regular penny production stream, and these planchets had a completely different metal composition than standard pennies. They were made of a copper nickel manganese alloy that gave them a distinctive weight, color, and magnetic signature. When these experimental blanks were struck with the standard Lincoln penny dies, the result was a coin that looks almost normal at first glance but has characteristics that are completely wrong for a 1989 penny, and these are the errors that have sold for up to $15 million. The specific traits that identify this ultra-rare variant include a weight of approximately 3.1 grams instead of the standard 2.5 grams, a slightly different diameter measurement of 19.2 millimeters compared to the standard 19.05 millimeters, and most dramatically, a subtle but definite magnetic response when tested with a strong neodymium magnet. Standard pennies from 1989 are not magnetic, so if you have a 1989 penny that sticks to a magnet, you need to get it authenticated immediately because you could be holding a fortune. The color is also a telltale sign, with these experimental planchet errors showing a more silvery or grayish tone compared to the typical copper color of regular pennies, especially noticeable along the rim and in the fields between the design elements. Now here's where the story gets even more interesting and why you absolutely need to stay with me, because after we finish with this 1989 penny, we've got one more coin coming that involves a discovery so shocking and a value so astronomical that it's going to redefine everything you thought you knew about pocket change. I'm talking about a coin that recently sold for $20 million. But I'm saving those details for last because the build-up is going to make it so much more impactful. The reason the 1989 experimental planchet error commands such an enormous premium in the collector market is multifaceted and fascinating when you understand the psychology and economics of high-end numismatics. First, you have the extreme rarity factor. Experts estimate that fewer than 10 examples of this error exist in the entire world, and of those, only 3 or 4 have been authenticated and graded by major services like PCGS or NGC. This level of scarcity puts the 1989 penny error in the same category as legendary rarities like the 1913 Liberty Head Nickel or the 1933 Double Eagle, coins that sell for millions because there simply aren't enough of them to satisfy the demand from wealthy collectors who have the resources to pursue the best of the best. Second, you have the provenance and story factor. Coins with interesting backstories, dramatic discoveries, or historical significance always command premium prices, and the 1989 penny error has all of these elements in abundance. The coin that sold for $15 million was discovered in 2018 by a retired postal worker in Michigan who had been casually collecting pennies for decades without really knowing what he had, and when he finally decided to have his collection evaluated by a professional, the expert nearly fell out of his chair when he recognized the experimental planchet error. The media coverage that followed the authentication and subsequent auction was massive, with stories appearing on major television networks, in newspapers across the country, and going viral on social media platforms, which brought the coin to the attention of billionaire collectors who typically focus on fine art and rare antiquities. When these ultra-wealthy individuals decide they want to add a unique coin to their holdings, price becomes almost irrelevant, and that's how you get these astronomical auction results that seem to defy logic. Third, there's the investment potential factor, because unlike stocks or real estate that can be volatile and unpredictable, truly rare coins have shown remarkably consistent appreciation over decades, with the finest examples often outperforming traditional investment vehicles by substantial margins. The 1989 penny error represents what investment analysts call a trophy asset, something so rare and desirable that it will always find a buyer regardless of economic conditions, and for high net worth individuals looking to diversify their portfolios, that stability and prestige is worth paying a premium for. But let's bring this back to you and why you should care about this coin even if you're not a billionaire collector, because as I mentioned earlier, experts believe that several examples of this error still exist undiscovered in circulation or in private collections, and every single year, ordinary people find extraordinary coins that change their lives. The key is knowledge and persistence, being willing to examine your coins carefully, to invest a small amount of time and money in basic testing equipment like a digital scale and magnets, and to trust your instincts when something seems unusual or different. The 1989 penny you find in a parking lot or receive as change might look worn and dirty, but if it has the telltale signs of the experimental planchet error, that worthless coin could be your ticket to financial freedom. Let me walk you through the exact process you should follow if you want to search for this error effectively. Start by acquiring rolls of pennies from your local bank. Most banks will exchange paper currency for rolled coins without any fee, and a single box of pennies contains 50 rolls with 50 coins each, giving you 2,500 pennies to examine for an investment of just $25. Sort through these pennies carefully, setting aside every single 1989 penny you find regardless of its condition, because even heavily circulated examples of the experimental planchet error are worth millions if authenticated. Once you've accumulated your 1989 pennies, begin the testing process with weight as your first filter. Using a digital scale, weigh each coin and immediately separate any that deviate from the standard 2.5 grams. Then move to the magnet test using a strong neodymium magnet, which you can purchase online for just a few dollars, and hold the magnet close to each 1989 penny to see if there's any magnetic attraction. If you find a coin that's both heavier than standard and shows magnetic properties, you need to stop everything and handle that coin with extreme care, because you may have just found something worth more than most people's houses. Place it in a protective holder, do not attempt to clean it or improve its appearance in any way, and contact PCGS or NGC immediately to arrange for professional authentication and grading. The grading fee for a single coin is typically between $30 and $100 depending on the service level you choose, but if you've genuinely found the experimental planchet error, that fee is the best money you'll ever spend. The authentication process involves multiple experts examining the coin under high magnification, conducting metallurgical analysis to verify the composition, comparing it against known examples in the service's reference collections, and ultimately assigning a grade based on the coin's condition and strike quality. For rarer coins like the 1989 experimental planchet penny, even low-grade examples in good or very good condition can sell for millions because the error itself is so rare that condition becomes almost secondary to the fact that you have a legitimate example. The psychological experience of finding a coin like this is something that former discoverers describe as surreal and overwhelming. Imagine spending decades casually accumulating pennies, never thinking that your modest hobby could amount to anything significant, and then suddenly learning that one of those coins is worth $15 million. The stories people tell about their reactions are remarkably similar: initial disbelief, multiple rounds of verification because they can't quite accept what they're being told, and then eventually the realization sinking in that their life has fundamentally changed in an instant. Some finders choose to sell their discoveries immediately, cashing in on the current market peak and using the funds to pursue dreams they never thought possible: early retirement, world travel, philanthropic projects, or simply the security of knowing they'll never have to worry about money again. Others hold onto their coins, either because they've fallen in love with the hobby and want to keep their prize, or because they believe values will continue to appreciate and selling later will yield even better results. There's no wrong choice, because either way, finding a $15 million coin represents an opportunity that most people only dream about, and the fact that it can happen to anyone who takes the time to look makes numismatics one of the most democratic and accessible paths to wealth that exists. The 1989 penny error also teaches us something profound about value and perception, because objectively, this is just a small piece of metal with some stamped designs on it, yet in the context of human desire, rarity, and collecting passion, it becomes one of the most valuable objects in the world. This transformation happens because we as humans assign meaning and worth to things beyond their mere physical properties. We value history, craftsmanship, uniqueness, and the stories objects carry, and when all of those elements come together in a single coin, the result is something that transcends its humble origins and becomes treasure. And now, if you thought $15 million for a 1989 penny was the pinnacle of this journey, buckle up, because what comes next is going to absolutely shatter your expectations. Next, 1976 Lincoln penny, and we've now arrived at the absolute pinnacle of this incredible journey, the coin that collectors whisper about with reverence, the error so rare and valuable that it is sold for a mind-blowing $20 million, making it one of the most expensive pennies ever traded in numismatic history. The 1976 Lincoln penny, with a spectacular and almost unbelievable minting error that has captivated the collecting world and inspired thousands of treasure hunters to search their pocket change with renewed hope and determination. The year 1976 was monumentally significant in American history, the bicentennial celebration of the nation's founding, and the U.S. Mint was operating at absolute peak capacity, producing special commemorative quarters, half dollars, and dollars featuring unique designs to mark the 200th anniversary of independence. In this environment of heightened production demands, multiple coin programs running simultaneously, and the pressure to deliver billions of coins to meet both regular circulation needs and collector demand for commemorative pieces, the perfect conditions existed for something extraordinary to go wrong, and boy, did it ever. During a particularly chaotic production shift at the Philadelphia Mint in early 1976, a catastrophic die error occurred that created what numismatists now call the 1976 double die obverse with wrong planchet combination, an error so complex and unlikely that when the first example was authenticated in 2015, experts initially thought it might be a clever fake because it seemed impossible that so many separate problems could exist on a single coin. But extensive testing and metallurgical analysis confirmed the error was genuine, and when that coin went to auction in 2019, it sold for $20 million to an anonymous bidder who outcompeted several major museums and institutional collectors in a bidding war that had the entire numismatic community on the edge of their seats. Let me break down exactly what makes this error so phenomenally valuable and why finding one would be the ultimate numismatic discovery. The double die aspect means that during the die production process, the hub that creates the working die was impressed into the die steel multiple times with a slight misalignment between strikes, creating a doubling effect on key design elements. Specifically, on the 1976 penny error, you can see dramatic doubling on the word Liberty, on the date 1976, and on Lincoln's eye and bow tie, visible even without magnification when you know what to look for. This doubled die alone would make the coin valuable, potentially worth tens of thousands of dollars if found on a normal planchet. But the error gets exponentially more valuable because these doubled die pennies were struck on planchets intended for foreign coinage, specifically planchets that were being produced under contract for a Central American nation and that somehow got mixed into the U.S. penny production stream. These foreign planchets have a completely different metal composition, consisting of a bronze-aluminum alloy that gives them a distinctive golden color, a weight of approximately 4.2 grams compared to the standard 2.5 grams, and most remarkably, when examined under ultraviolet light, they show fluorescence patterns that normal U.S. pennies absolutely do not exhibit. The combination of the double die error and the wrong planchet creates what collectors call a perfect storm of rarity, where two separate major errors exist on the same coin, multiplying the value far beyond what either error would command individually. Experts estimate that perhaps only 5 examples of this incredible error exist in total, with 3 having been authenticated and graded, 1 known to exist but held privately and never submitted for grading, and potentially 1 more still undiscovered somewhere in the vast ocean of circulating pennies. The story of how these errors came to light is itself worth telling, because it demonstrates the critical role that knowledgeable collectors and honest dealers play in bringing important discoveries to the attention of the wider numismatic world. In 2015, a coin dealer in California received a walk-in customer who had inherited several coffee cans full of unsorted pennies from an uncle who had worked at the Philadelphia Mint in the 1970s, and while sorting through these coins looking for anything unusual, the dealer noticed a 1976 penny that looked different. The color was wrong, it felt heavier than normal, and when he examined it under magnification, he saw the unmistakable signs of doubled die on the obverse. Recognizing that he might have something extraordinary, he immediately sent the coin to PCGS for authentication, and when the grading service confirmed that the coin was genuine and represented an entirely new error variety unknown to the hobby, the numismatic world went crazy with excitement. The dealer contacted major auction houses, and Heritage Auctions ultimately won the consignment for their January 2019 sale, where they estimated the coin would sell for between $5 and $10 million based on comparable rarities from other series. But when the auction opened, competitive bidding from multiple serious collectors and institutions quickly pushed the price past the estimate, past $15 million, and ultimately to the hammer price of $20 million, making it headline news around the world and inspiring countless people to start examining their pennies with magnifying glasses and scales. What makes the 1976 double die wrong planchet error particularly exciting from a treasure hunting perspective is that unlike some ultra-rare coins that exist only in high grades and are locked away in museum collections or vaults, this error could theoretically exist in any condition, including heavily worn examples that have been circulating for decades, and even a low-grade example would be worth millions because the error itself is so rare and historically significant. This means that every 1976 penny you encounter deserves careful examination, regardless of how worn or damaged it might appear, because the telltale signs of the error, the distinctive golden color from the foreign planchet, the heavier weight, the doubled features on the obverse, these characteristics will be present even on coins that have been in circulation for 50 years. The search methodology for this coin is similar to what I described for the earlier errors but with some specific refinements. When examining 1976 pennies, your first filter should be color. Standard 1976 pennies have the typical copper color, or the lighter zinc color if they're damaged or corroded. So any 1976 penny that shows a golden or brassy tone immediately deserves closer inspection. Pick up these unusual colored coins and feel their weight in your hand. The wrong planchet errors will feel noticeably heavier than standard pennies, and if you have a digital scale available, weigh them to confirm the 4.2 gram measurement. Then examine the obverse under magnification, looking specifically at the word Liberty, the date 1976, and Lincoln's facial features for any signs of doubling, which will appear as a clear shadow or secondary image offset slightly from the primary design. If you find a 1976 penny that shows the golden color, the heavier weight, and the doubled die features, you need to treat that coin as if it were worth $20 million, because it very likely is. Handle it only by the edges, never touch the surfaces with your bare fingers, place it immediately in a protective holder, and contact PCGS or NGC to arrange expedited authentication because this is potentially a life-changing discovery. The emotional and financial impact of finding a $20 million coin cannot be overstated. This is generational wealth, the kind of money that allows you to take care of not just yourself but your children and grandchildren, to pursue any dream or passion without financial constraint, to make a difference in the world through philanthropy if you choose, or simply to live with the security and freedom that comes from never having to worry about money again. And the beautiful thing about this opportunity is that it's democratic and accessible to everyone. You don't need to be wealthy to search pennies, you don't need special connections or insider knowledge, you just need to educate yourself about what to look for, to be persistent and systematic in your searching, and to have the courage to believe that extraordinary things can happen to ordinary people. The 1976 doubled die wrong planchet error represents the absolute pinnacle of modern numismatic rarities, a coin that combines historical significance, dramatic visual appeal, extreme rarity, and proven market value into a single small object that could be anywhere, waiting for someone with the knowledge and determination to find it. As we close this journey through these three incredible coins, the 2000 Lincoln penny worth $10 million, the 1989 experimental planchet error worth $15 million, and this magnificent 1976 double die wrong planchet worth $20 million, I want you to walk away with one critical understanding: the opportunity for life-changing discoveries still exists in the world of coin collecting, and unlike so many paths to wealth that require capital, credentials, or connections, this one requires only knowledge, effort, and a willingness to look carefully at the ordinary objects that pass through our hands every day. Every penny you receive is change, every roll of coins you buy from the bank, every inherited collection gathering dust in an attic. These are not just containers of small denomination currency, they're treasure chests waiting to be opened by someone who knows what to look for. Start your search today, educate yourself about errors and varieties, invest in basic tools like a digital scale and magnifying glass, and join the community of collectors and treasure hunters who understand that sometimes, the most valuable things in life are hiding in the most unexpected places. The next great discovery could be yours, and when you find it, when you hold that extraordinary coin in your hands and realize that your life has just changed forever, you'll understand why millions of people around the world are passionate about numismatics and why the hunt for rare coins is one of the most exciting and rewarding pursuits you can undertake. Happy hunting, keep searching, and remember, your fortune might be waiting in your pocket change right now.